The space station of Orion 7 buzzed with life, a chaotic blend of alien species and human engineers moving through its sprawling corridors. It was a hub for interstellar trade, where goods from across the galaxy were unloaded, inspected, and shipped off to distant planets. Among the many faces that populated the station was Jae-ho, a Korean engineer in his mid. Known for his sharp mind and meticulous work ethic, Jae-ho spent most of his days fixing malfunctioning cargo drones and maintaining the aging infrastructure of the station. Jae-ho wasn't one for small talk. He preferred the quiet hum of machinery, over the chatter of traders haggling over prices or the endless gossip among the crew. His workbench was always tidy, tools neatly arranged, and his workspace free of clutter. He liked it that way, orderly, predictable, under control. Life on Orion 7 could be unpredictable enough without adding chaos to his personal environment. On this particular day, Jae-ho had been assigned to inspect a shipment of exotic minerals from an uncharted planet. These kinds of shipments were common on Orion 7, but they often came with complications. The minerals were valuable, fragile, and sometimes dangerous if mishandled. As Jae-ho approached the docking bay, he noticed a figure standing near the crates. They were wearing a dark hoodie pulled low over their face, obscuring their features. In one hand, they held a datapad, and in the other, they dragged a crate labeled bioorganic supplies. At first glance, Jae-ho assumed they were just another worker probably assigned to unload the shipment. Workers like this were everywhere on Orion 7, their identities blurred by uniforms or simple coverings. Some were humans, others aliens of various species, all performing the grunt work that kept the station running, without giving it much thought. Jae-ho nodded briefly in acknowledgement and continued toward the crates. But something about the figure caught his attention. As they shifted slightly, a faint shimmer rippled around the edges of their hood, as though light bent strangely around them. Jae-ho paused, narrowing his eyes. He couldn't quite place what it was. Maybe a trick of the station's artificial lighting, or some kind of reflective coating on their clothing. Whatever it was, it seemed out of place. "Hey," Jae-ho called out, raising his voice just enough to be heard over the noise of the docking bay. "Do you need help with those?" The figure turned slowly, but their face remained hidden beneath the shadow of their hood. For a moment, they didn't respond. Then, with a slight nod, they said, "No, thank you. I've got it." Their voice was soft, almost melodic, but carried an edge of authority that made Jae-ho hesitate. Something about it felt unusual, not quite human, but not entirely alien either. Shrugging it off, Jae-ho returned to his inspection. He ran his diagnostic scanner over the crates, checking for any signs of damage or contamination. Everything seemed fine, so he marked the shipment as cleared and moved on to his next task. Still, the image of the hooded figure lingered in his mind. There was something about them that didn't sit right, though he couldn't put his finger on it. Later that evening, Jae-ho found himself back in the lower decks of the station, performing routine maintenance checks. The lower levels were quieter than the bustling docks above, with fewer people passing through. Most of the activity here was automated, handled by drones and machines that rarely required human intervention. It was peaceful, in a way, and Jae-ho enjoyed the solitude. As he worked, he noticed movement out of the corner of his eye. Turning, he saw the same figure from earlier, the one in the hoodie. This time, they were standing near a restricted access door marked maintenance personnel only. Jae-ho frowned. What was someone like that doing down here? Restricted areas weren't meant for casual visitors, especially not workers hauling crates. He stepped forward, intending to ask what they were doing there. But before he could speak, the figure turned abruptly and walked away, disappearing around a corner. Curious, Jae-ho followed, but when he reached the spot where they had vanished, there was no sign of them. The corridor ahead was empty, the dim lights casting long shadows along the walls. Puzzled, Jae-ho glanced down at the floor. There, trailing behind where the figure had been, was a faint line of glowing residue. It shimmered faintly, pulsating, with a soft, otherworldly light. Jae-ho knelt down to examine it more closely. The substance didn't match anything he'd seen before, not oil, coolant, or any kind of lubricant used on the station. It almost looked alive, as if it were breathing in rhythm with the station itself. Standing up, Jae-ho felt a mix of curiosity and unease. Who or what was this person, and why did they leave behind such a strange trail? He knew he should report the incident to security, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the way the figure had spoken earlier, calm and confident, as if they had every right to be there. Or maybe it was the shimmering residue. So unlike anything else on Orion 7, whatever the reason, Jae-ho decided to keep quiet for now. Back in his quarters later that night, Jae-ho couldn't shake the feeling that he'd stumbled onto something unusual. He pulled up the station's personnel logs on his terminal, searching for anyone matching the description of the hooded figure. To his surprise, he found nothing. No records of employment, no identification tags, no mention of anyone fitting their profile. Frustrated but intrigued, Jae-ho began digging deeper. He cross-referenced recent arrivals at Orion 7, looking for any anomalies in the docking manifests. After hours of sifting through data, he finally found something odd. A vessel registered under the name Vera Kale had docked 2 days ago, carrying classified biological materials. The ship's clearance codes were flagged as high priority, bypassing standard inspections. Whoever Varicale was, they clearly had connections. Jae-ho leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen. Could the hooded figure be connected to this mysterious ship? If so, what were they doing aboard Orion 7? And why had they left behind that strange glowing residue? For the first time in a long while, Jae-ho felt a spark of excitement. Life on the station had grown predictable, even monotonous. But this was different. This was a mystery worth solving. Little did he know, uncovering the truth would lead him far beyond the confines of Orion 7 and into a world he could never have imagined. The next morning, Jae-ho woke up with the hooded figure still on his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that something unusual was happening aboard Orion 7, and he was determined to find out what it was. After a quick breakfast of rehydrated noodles, he didn't have much time for elaborate meals. He headed straight to the station's maintenance bay. There, he began setting up hidden surveillance cameras in areas where the mysterious worker had been spotted. Jae-ho wasn't an expert in espionage, but he knew enough about engineering to rig makeshift recording devices. He scavenged parts from old drones and repurposed them into tiny cameras, small enough to blend into the station's walls and corners. It wasn't perfect, but it would do. He positioned the cameras near restricted access doors, ventilation, shafts, and other places that seemed suspicious. If the hooded figure returned, he wanted to be ready. For the rest of the day, Jae-ho went about his usual tasks, pretending nothing was different. He fixed malfunctioning cargo lifts, repaired broken control panels, and answered calls from crew members who needed technical assistance. But every now and then, his thoughts drifted back to the glowing residue and the strange shimmer around the figure's hood. Who were they? What were they hiding? And why did they seem so out of place on a station filled with ordinary workers? That evening, after finishing his shift, Jae-ho returned to his quarters to review the footage. He sat at his desk, sipping lukewarm coffee as he cycled through hours of recordings. Most of it was boring empty corridors, flickering lights, the occasional engineer passing by. But then, just as he was about to give up, he saw something. On one of the cameras near a restricted access door, there she was again, the hooded figure. She moved silently, her steps deliberate and unhurried. This time, however, she wasn't alone. Behind her, faint trails of glowing residue marked her path, pulsating softly like a heartbeat. Jae-ho leaned closer to the screen, his pulse quickening. He watched as she approached the door and placed her hand against the panel. What happened next made his breath catch. Instead of triggering the standard security scan, the metal surface of the door rippled like liquid. For a moment, it looked almost alive, shifting and reforming until it parted to reveal a hidden passageway beyond. The figure stepped inside, without hesitation, disappearing into the darkness. Jae-ho stared at the screen, stunned. Hidden passageways on Orion. That wasn't supposed to be possible. The station's blueprints were public knowledge, available to anyone with clearance. There shouldn't have been any secret tunnels or chambers. And yet, here was undeniable proof that something or someone had gone to great lengths to conceal part of the station. Determined to learn more, Jae-ho decided to investigate the area himself. Armed with a portable scanner and a flashlight, he made his way to the location where the figure had entered the hidden passage. When he arrived, the door looked completely normal, solid, unremarkable, and locked tight. He ran his scanner over it, but the readings came back inconclusive. Whatever material the door was made of, it didn't register as typical metal or alloy. Frustrated but unwilling to give up, Jae-ho pressed his palm against the surface, mimicking what he'd seen the figure do. Nothing happened. He tried tapping, pushing, even scanning it again, but the door remained stubbornly closed. Just as he was about to leave, a sudden realization hit him. Maybe it wasn't the door itself that mattered, it was the person using it. Returning to his quarters, Jae-ho spent the night reviewing the footage once more. He focused on the figure's movements, trying to spot any clues he might have missed. Her posture was relaxed, confident, as if she belonged there. When she touched the door, her fingers spread wide, covering most of the panel. Could it be some kind of biometric lock, a system designed to recognize specific individuals? The thought sent a shiver down his spine. If that was true, then whoever wore whatever she was, she had access to parts of the station no one else did. That level of secrecy suggested something far bigger than a simple smuggling operation or unauthorized activity. Something dangerous. Over the next few days, strange things began happening aboard Orion 7. Equipment that had worked perfectly for years suddenly started malfunctioning. Lights flickered unpredictably, and security cameras glitched at odd intervals, leaving blind spots in key areas. Rumors spread among the crew about ghostly apparitions appearing in the corridors late at night. Some claimed to have seen shadowy figures darting between rooms, while others reported hearing whispers coming from empty halls. At first, Jae-ho dismissed these stories as superstition or overactive imaginations. Space stations were known for their quirks, after all, and people liked to exaggerate. But when he noticed patterns emerging, a camera going offline right before a shipment disappeared, tools vanishing from locked storage units, he began to wonder, was the hooded figure behind these incidents? Or was there someone else involved? One night, unable to sleep, Jeho decided to patrol the lower decks himself. He grabbed a toolkit and pretended to perform routine checks, but his real goal was to keep an eye out for anything unusual. As he wandered through the dimly lit corridors, he heard a faint humming sound. It was low and steady, almost imperceptible, unless you were listening closely. Following the noise, he found himself standing outside another restricted access door. This time, the door was slightly ajar, revealing a sliver of light from within. Jeho hesitated, torn between curiosity and caution. Part of him wanted to turn back, to report what he'd found, and let security handle it. But another part, the part that had spent years fixing problems on his own, pushed him forward. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. What he saw took his breath away. The room beyond was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. The walls glowed faintly with a soft, pulsating light, as though they were alive. Strange symbols floated in midair, shifting and rearranging themselves in patterns that seemed almost intelligent. In the center of the room stood a massive crystalline structure, its surface etched with intricate designs that shimmered like starlight. The air hummed with energy, vibrating in a way that made Jeho's skin tingle. Before he could process what he was seeing, a voice spoke from behind him. "You really shouldn't be here." Startled, Jeho spun around to find the hooded figure. Standing in the doorway, her face was still hidden beneath the shadow of her hoodie, but her tone was calm, almost resigned. She didn't sound angry or threatening, just weary, as if she'd expected this moment all along. I didn't mean to intrude," Jeho stammered, his heart racing. I saw the door open, and I wanted to see what was inside." The figure stepped closer, her movements graceful and deliberate. "You're curious. That's understandable. But this place isn't safe for someone like you, someone like me," Jeho echoed, his voice rising slightly. "What does that even mean?" Instead of answering, the figure reached up and pulled back her hoodie. Jeho froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. Beneath the hood wasn't an alien face at all, it was a young Korean woman, her features striking yet eerily serene. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, and intricate tattoos resembling circuitry traced delicate lines across her skin. "My name is Hiren," she said softly, "and you've stumbled into something far bigger than you realize." For a long moment, Jeho could only stare. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Was she human? Alien? Something else entirely? Before he could ask, Hiren gestured toward the crystalline structure. "This is an archive," she explained. "It contains knowledge secrets about the universe that some would kill to possess. I've been protecting it, keeping it hidden from those who would misuse its power, but now," she trailed off, her expression troubled. "Now what?" Jeho prompted. "Now they've found me," she said simply, "and they won't stop until they get what they want." Jeho felt a chill run down his spine. Whoever they were, they clearly posed a threat not just to Hiren, but to everyone on Orion 7. For the first time since discovering the hidden chamber, he realized the stakes were higher than he'd imagined. Whatever secrets lay within the archive, they were dangerous enough to attract enemies willing to risk everything to claim them. As Hiren turned back toward the crystalline structure, Jeho made a decision. He didn't know much about her or the archive, but one thing was clear: she couldn't face this alone. Whether he liked it or not, he was already involved. And if there was one thing Jeho prided himself on, it was seeing problems through to the end. "I'll help you," he said firmly. "Whatever it takes." Hiren glanced at him, her glowing eyes reflecting a mix of surprise and gratitude. "Are you sure? Once you step into this fight, there's no turning back?" Jeho nodded. "I'm sure." With that, the two of them stood side by side, staring at the pulsating light of the archive. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The hidden chamber was unlike anything Jeho had ever seen. The walls pulsed with a soft rhythmic glow, and the air carried a faint hum that resonated deep in his chest. Strange symbols floated in midair, shifting and rearranging themselves as if alive. At the center of the room stood the crystalline structure Hiren had called an archive. Its surface shimmered with intricate patterns, reflecting light in ways that seemed almost magical. Jeho's mind raced to process everything. He glanced at Hiren, her glowing blue eyes fixed on the archive. Her presence was calm but tinged with sadness, as though she carried a heavy burden. For a moment neither of them spoke. The weight of what he'd stumbled into hung thick in the air. Finally, Jeho broke the silence. "You said this is an archive. What kind of secrets does it hold?" Hiren hesitated before answering. She walked closer to the crystalline structure, her hand hovering just above its surface. "It contains knowledge about the origins of the universe, the creation of life, and technologies beyond comprehension. My people were created to protect it." "Your people?" Jeho asked, frowning. "Who are you? Really?" She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "I am Kelvin," she said simply, "a biomechanical being engineered by an ancient civilization long gone. We were designed to safeguard their most valuable discoveries, to ensure they wouldn't fall into the wrong hands." Jeho stared at her, trying to wrap his head around what she was saying. Biomechanical beings? Ancient civilizations? It sounded like something out of a science fiction novel. But looking at high, glowing tattoos etched across her skin, the unnatural shimmer of her eyes, he couldn't deny the truth. She wasn't human, not entirely. And these enemies you mentioned, Jeho pressed. Who are they? What do they want with the archive? Hiren sighed, her shoulders sagging slightly. They are mercenaries led by a warlord named Draken. Vex, they believe the archive holds the key to ultimate power weapons, technology, or even the ability to reshape reality itself. If they succeed in taking control of it, the consequences could be catastrophic. Jeho felt a chill run down his spine. Catastrophic didn't begin to describe it. If what Hiren said was true, then the stakes were unimaginably high. But why had she chosen to confide in him? Out of everyone on Orient 7, why trust a simple engineer? As if reading his thoughts, Hiren gave him a small, weary smile. You're curious, persistent, and clever enough to uncover my secret. That makes you dangerous but also trustworthy. I need someone who can think quickly and adapt. Someone like you. Her words stirred something in Jeho. He wasn't used to being relied upon for anything other than fixing broken machines. Yet here she was, placing her faith in him, despite knowing so little about him. It was both flattering and terrifying. What happens now? He asked, glancing around the chamber. How do we stop them? We prepare, Hiren replied. Draken's forces will come for the archive soon. When they do, we'll have to defend it or destroy it if necessary. Destroy it? Jeho echoed, alarmed. But won't that mean losing all the knowledge inside? Yes, Hiren admitted, but some secrets are too dangerous to exist. If the archive falls into the wrong hands, the cost could be far greater than any loss of knowledge. Jeho nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation. Destroying the archive would be a last resort, but it might be the only way to prevent disaster. Still, the idea of erasing such profound discoveries left a bitter taste in his mouth. Over the next few days, Jeho threw himself into preparations. With Hiren's guidance, he rigged traps throughout the hidden chamber and surrounding corridors. He repurposed old drones into makeshift sentries, programming them to patrol key areas and alert them to intruders. He even managed to modify some of the station's automated defense systems, redirecting their protocols to prioritize the lower decks where the archive was located. High-RIN, meanwhile, worked tirelessly to reinforce the chamber's defenses. She interfaced directly with the organic machinery, her glowing tattoos lighting up as she manipulated the system. Jeho watched in awe as the walls shifted and reformed, creating additional barriers and sealing off potential entry points. Whatever she was doing, it was far beyond anything he could comprehend. Despite their efforts, tension between them grew. Hiren rarely spoke unless necessary, her focus consumed by the looming threat. Jeho tried to engage her in conversation, hoping to learn more about her past and the civilization that had created her. But each time, she deflected his questions, claiming there wasn't enough time to dwell on the past. One night, as they took a brief break from their preparations, Jeho decided to press her again. They were sitting cross-legged on the floor of the chamber, sharing a meal of ration bars and lukewarm coffee. You never talk about your creators, Jeho said gently. What happened to them? Hiren paused, her gaze distant. They vanished, she said after a long moment. One day, they were there, guiding us, teaching us. The next, they were gone. No explanation, no warning, just silence. That must have been hard, Jeho murmured. It was, Hiren admitted. For a long time, many of us wandered aimlessly, unsure of our purpose without them. Some turned to destruction, others to isolation. But a few of us continued our mission to protect the archives, no matter the cost. And you're one of those few, Jeho said. High-RIN nodded. Yes. But sometimes, I wonder if it's worth it. All this knowledge, all this heavy sometimes. I wish I could just let go. Jeho reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not alone anymore, he said firmly. We'll get through this together. Hiren looked at him, her glowing eyes softening. For the first time since they'd met, she smiled a genuine, heartfelt smile that made her seem less alien and more human. Thank you, Jeho. Their moment of connection was interrupted by a sudden alarm blaring through the station. Red lights flashed overhead, casting an ominous glow over the chamber. Hiren sprang to her feet, her expression grim. They're here, she said, without hesitation. Jeho followed her out of the chamber and into the corridor. The sound of gunfire echoed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. Crew members shouted warnings as chaos erupted throughout the lower decks. Draken Vex's forces had arrived. Hiren moved with precision, her every step calculated and deliberate. She tapped into the station's systems, rerouting power to disable enemy weapons and seal off sections of the station. Jeho stayed close behind, using his tools to sabotage drones and disrupt communications. Together, they fought back against the invaders, holding them at bay long enough to buy precious time. As they neared the archive chamber, Jeho spotted a group of mercenaries attempting to breach the door. Their leader, a tall, imposing figure clad in black armor, stood at the front, shouting orders. Hiren froze when she saw him. Draken, she whispered, her voice filled with hatred. Jae-ho glanced at her, surprised by the intensity of her reaction. You know him. He's responsible for the deaths of countless Kelvin, Hiren said bitterly. He hunts us relentlessly, seeking the archives for his own gain. He won't stop until every last one is under his control. Well, he's not getting this one, Jae-ho declared, determination hardening his voice. With renewed resolve, Hiren stepped forward, her glowing tattoos flaring brightly. Let's finish this. Side by side, they charged toward the mercenaries, ready to face whatever came next. The battle ahead would be fierce, but Jae-ho knew one thing for certain. No matter what happened, he wouldn't let Hiren fight alone. The battle for the archive chamber was fierce and unrelenting. Draken Vex's mercenaries poured into the lower decks of Orion 7, their weapons blazing and their movements sharp and calculated. They were well-trained fighters, armed with advanced technology that gave them an edge over the station's defenses. Explosions rocked the corridors as they breached doors and cut through barriers. Leaving destruction in their wake, Jae-ho and Hiren fought side by side, using every ounce of skill and ingenuity they possessed. Hiren interfaced directly with the station's systems, her glowing tattoos lighting up as she rerouted power to disable enemy weapons and lock down sections of the station. She could manipulate the organic machinery within the hidden chamber, causing walls to shift and seal off pathways, buying them precious time. Her abilities were unlike anything Jae-ho had ever seen, a blend of human intuition and machine-like precision. For his part, Jae-ho relied on his engineering expertise. He used tools scavenged from his toolkit to sabotage drones and disrupt communications. When one group of mercenaries tried to breach a door using explosives, Jae-ho rigged a feedback loop into the locking mechanism, causing the charge to backfire and send the attackers sprawling. His quick thinking earned him a nod of approval from Hiren, though there was no time to celebrate small victories. Despite their efforts, the mercenaries kept coming. Draken Vex himself led the charge, his towering figure clad in black armor that gleamed menacingly under the red emergency lights. He carried a massive energy rifle and moved with the confidence of someone who always got what he wanted. His voice boomed through the chaos, shouting orders to his troops and taunting Hiren. You can't hide forever, Kelvin, Draken bellowed, his tone dripping with malice. Hand over the archive, and I might let you live. Hiren didn't respond. Instead, she focused on strengthening the chamber's defenses, her hands moving swiftly over invisible controls only she could see. The crystalline structure at the center of the room pulsed brighter, its light casting eerie shadows across the walls. Jae-ho noticed the symbols floating in midair, shifting faster, as if reacting to the tension in the air. We're running out of time, Hiren said urgently, glancing at Jae-ho. If they break through, we'll have to initiate the self-destruct sequence. Jae-ho swallowed hard. The thought of destroying the archive and all the knowledge it contained was devastating. But he knew Hiren was right. Some secrets were too dangerous to fall into the wrong hands. Still, the weight of the decision pressed heavily on him. I'm ready, he said firmly, meeting her glowing eyes. Whatever happens, we do it together. Hiren nodded, a flicker of gratitude crossing her face. Then she turned back to the task at hand, her expression resolute. Together, they prepared for the final confrontation. The mercenaries finally breached the chamber, forcing their way through the last line of defense. Draken strode in, his weapon trained on Hiren. Behind him, his soldiers fanned out, surrounding the crystalline structure. Their faces were masked, their expressions unreadable beneath helmets and visors. So this is it, Draken sneered, gesturing toward the archive. The key to everything? You've done a good job hiding it, Kelvin, but your time is up. Hiren stood tall, her presence commanding despite the odds stacked against her. You'll never understand the responsibility that comes with this knowledge, she said coldly. It's not meant for someone like you. Draken laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed through the chamber. Responsibility. Don't make me laugh. Power doesn't come with responsibility, it comes with freedom, and I intend to use this archive to reshape the galaxy in my image. Jae-ho stepped forward, positioning himself beside Hiren. You won't get the chance, he said, his voice steady. We'll destroy it before we let you take it. Draken's gaze shifted to Jae-ho, his lip curling in disdain. And who are you? A pathetic human engineer playing hero. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Maybe not, Jae-ho shot back. But I know enough to stop you. For a moment, the room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Then Draken raised his weapon, aiming it squarely at Hiren. Enough talk, hand it over. Or die. Without hesitation, Hiren activated the self-destruct sequence. The chamber trembled as alarms blared, warning of imminent destruction. The mercenaries froze, unsure whether to retreat or press forward. Draken cursed, his composure slipping for the first time. You'd really destroy it, he snarled, glaring at Hiren. All that knowledge, gone, just like that. It's better than letting you misuse it, Hiren replied, her voice unwavering. Realizing they were out of options, Jae-ho grabbed Hiren's arm. We need to go now. Hiren hesitated, her eyes lingering on the crystalline structure. It was clear she felt a deep connection to the archive, a sense of duty that went beyond logic or reason. But ultimately, she nodded and followed Jae-ho as they sprinted toward the exit. Behind them, the mercenaries scrambled to disarm the self-destruct mechanism, but Hiren's safeguards were too complex. The countdown continued, each second ticking closer to destruction. As Jeho and Hiren reached the hidden passageway, the chamber erupted in a burst of radiant light, obliterating everything inside. The shockwave rippled through the station, shaking the walls and sending debris flying. Jeho shielded Hiren as they stumbled through the tunnels. Emerging onto the observation deck overlooking the vast expanse of space, they collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily as the echoes of the explosion faded into silence. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of what they had done and lost hung heavy in the air. Finally, Jeho broke the silence. "It's over," he said softly. "They won't be coming back." Hiren nodded, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars outside the window. "Yes, but at what cost?" Jeho placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing. Sometimes protecting the future means letting go of the past." Hiren looked at him, her expression softening. "Thank you, Jeho, for everything." As they sat together, gazing out at the endless expanse of space, a sense of peace settled over them. Though the archive was gone, its secrets lost forever, Hiren felt a renewed sense of purpose. With Jeho by her side, she resolved to continue, safeguarding the galaxy's mysteries and perhaps find answers about her creators along the way. For now, they had each other, and sometimes, that was enough. The observation deck of Orion 7 was quiet, save for the soft hum of the station's systems and the distant chatter of crew members returning to their duties. Jeho and Hiren sat side by side on the cold metal floor, their backs against the glass wall that offered a breathtaking view of the stars. The destruction of the archive had left them both physically and emotionally drained, but there was no time to rest. They knew Drakenvex wouldn't give up easily. "He'll regroup," Hiren said finally, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm though tinged with exhaustion. "Draken doesn't accept failure. He'll come back stronger next time." Jeho glanced at her, his brow furrowed. "Do you think he knows about other archives? Other places like this one?" Hiren nodded slowly. "He does. My people have been hunted for centuries because of what we guard. Every archive is a target, every Kelvin a prize. That's why I've spent so long hiding, not just from him, but from others like him." Jeho let out a heavy sigh. "Then we can't stop here. If there are more archives out there, they need protection too. And if Draken finds them first, he won't," Hiren interrupted sharply, her glowing eyes flashing with determination. "Not while I'm still alive." Her words sent a shiver down Jeho's spine. He'd seen glimpses of Hiren's strength, her ability to interface with machines, her tactical brilliance, her unwavering resolve, but now he understood the depth of her commitment. She wasn't just fighting for survival, she was fighting to uphold the legacy of her creators, even if it meant sacrificing everything. "We'll help each other," Jeho said firmly. "You're not alone in this anymore. Wherever you go, I'm coming with you." Hiren turned to look at him, surprise flickering across her face. "Why, you barely know me. This isn't your fight." "It is now," Jeho replied without hesitation. "I may not be a Kelvin or some kind of super soldier, but I've got skills that could make a difference. Besides," he hesitated, searching for the right words. "You trusted me when you didn't have to. That means something." For a moment, Hiren simply stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, a faint smile tugged at the corners of her lips. "You're stubborn, aren't you?" "Only when it matters," Jeho shot back with a grin. Over the next few days, Jeho and Hiren worked tirelessly to prepare for whatever came next. They scoured the station for supplies, gathering tools, weapons, and anything else they might need. Hiren accessed secure databases, searching for information about other archives and potential threats. Meanwhile, Jeho modified old drones and scavenged parts to create portable defense systems they could use on the move. Their partnership grew stronger with each passing day. Hiren taught Jeho how to recognize signs of danger, subtle changes in lighting, strange energy readings, or unusual patterns in behavior. In return, Jeho shared his knowledge of engineering, showing her how to repair and repurpose human-made technology. Together, they formed a team unlike any other, blending their unique strengths into something greater than the sum of its parts. As they prepared, rumors began spreading among the crew of Orion 7. Whispers of ghostly figures in hidden chambers gave way to talk of a mysterious woman with glowing eyes and a determined engineer who had stood up to mercenaries. Some dismissed the stories as exaggerations, but others swore they had seen the pair working late into the night, their movements purposeful and secretive. One evening, as Jeho and Hiren reviewed their plans in a secluded corner of the station, a young mechanic approached them cautiously. His name was Minsu, and he had always admired Jeho's work ethic. Now, however, his expression was serious. "I overheard some things," Minsu said quietly, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. "People are talking about you too, about what happened in the lower decks." Jeho exchanged a glance with Hiren before responding. "What exactly did you hear?" Minsu shifted uncomfortably. "Enough to know you're in trouble?" "Big trouble. If those mercenaries come back, they'll tear this place apart looking for you." Hiren stepped forward, her presence commanding despite her small frame. "We appreciate your concern, but this isn't something you should get involved in. I want to help, Minsu insisted, his voice firm despite the fear in his eyes. You've done so much for this station already. Let me do something for you. Jeho hesitated. He didn't want to put anyone else in danger, but he also knew they couldn't do everything alone. All right, he said finally, but only if you promise to stay safe. If things go south, we'll need someone on the outside to keep an eye on things. Minsu nodded eagerly. You can count on me. With Minsu's assistance, Jeho and Hiren finalized their preparations. They stashed supplies in hidden compartments throughout the station, created decoys to mislead pursuers, and mapped out escape routes in case they needed to leave Orion 7 quickly. By the time they were ready, the station felt like a fortress and, yet they knew it wouldn't be enough to stop Draconvex. The attack came sooner than expected. One night, as Jeho and Hiren reviewed their plans in the observation deck, alarms blared through the station once again. Red lights flashed overhead, casting an ominous glow over the room. Hiren sprang to her feet, her glowing tattoos flaring brightly. They're here, she said grimly. Without waiting for further explanation, Jeho grabbed his toolkit and followed her into the corridor. Chaos erupted throughout the station as Draken's forces launched a full-scale assault. Explosions rocked the halls, and panicked civilians fled for safety. Despite the overwhelming odds, Jeho and Hiren fought back with everything they had. Hiren interfaced directly with the station's systems, rerouting power to disable enemy weapons and seal off sections of the station. She moved with precision, her every step calculated and deliberate. Jeho stayed close behind, using his tools to sabotage drones and disrupt communications. Together, they held off wave after wave of attackers, buying precious time for the crew to evacuate. Eventually, the battle led them back to the lower decks, the site of the destroyed archive. Draconvex himself appeared, his massive energy rifle trained on Hiren. Behind him, his soldiers fanned out, surrounding the crystalline structure that had once housed the archive. You've caused me a lot of trouble. Kelvin Draken sneered, his voice dripping with malice. But it ends now. Hiren stood tall, her presence commanding despite the odds stacked against her. You'll never understand the responsibility that comes with this knowledge, she said coldly. It's not meant for someone like you. Dracon laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed through the chamber. Responsibility. Don't make me laugh. Power doesn't come with responsibility, it comes with freedom, and I intend to use this archive to reshape the galaxy in my image. Jeho stepped forward, positioning himself beside Hiren. You won't get the chance, he said, his voice steady. We'll destroy it before we let you take it. Gaze shifted to Jeho, his lip curling in disdain. And who are you? A pathetic human engineer playing hero. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Maybe not, Jeho shot back. But I know enough to stop you. For a moment, the room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Then Draken raised his weapon, aiming it squarely at Hiren. Enough talk. Hand it over or die. Without hesitation, Hiren activated the self-destruct sequence. The chamber trembled as alarms blared, warning of imminent destruction. The mercenaries froze, unsure whether to retreat or press forward. Draken cursed, his composure slipping for the first time. You'd really destroy it, he snarled, glaring at Hiren. All that knowledge, gone just like that. It's better than letting you misuse it, Hiren replied, her voice unwavering. Realizing they were out of options, Jeho grabbed Hiren's arm. We need to go. Now. Hiren hesitated, her eyes lingering on the crystalline structure. It was clear she felt a deep connection to the archive, a sense of duty that went beyond logic or reason. But ultimately, she nodded and followed Jeho. As they sprinted toward the exit behind them, the mercenaries scrambled to disarm the self-destruct mechanism, but Hiren's safeguards were too complex. The countdown continued, each second ticking closer to destruction. As Jeho and Hiren reached the hidden passageway, the chamber erupted in a burst of radiant light, obliterating everything inside. The shockwave rippled through the station, shaking the walls and sending debris flying. Jeho shielded Hiren as they stumbled through the tunnels, emerging onto the observation deck, overlooking the vast expanse of space. They collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily as the echoes of the explosion faded into silence. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of what they had done and lost hung heavy in the air. Finally, Jeho broke the silence. It's over, he said softly. They won't be coming back. Hiren nodded, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars outside the window. Yes, but at what cost? Jeho placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You did the right thing. Sometimes, protecting the future means letting go of the past. Hiren looked at him, her expression softening. Thank you, Jeho, for everything. As they sat together, gazing out at the endless expanse of space, a sense of peace settled over them. Though the archive was gone, its secrets lost forever, Hiren felt a renewed sense of purpose. With Jeho by her side, she resolved to continue safeguarding the galaxy's mysteries, and perhaps find answers about her creators along the way. For now, they had each other. And sometimes, that was enough.